Welcome to Wake and Bake from San Diego,
where sports betting
meets marijuana. I'm Leaf.
and I'm Low.
And here's Chaz.
Thanks, guys. Hector's here, so it's soccer time. Go! We are getting a little taste of exciting soccer because if you think about it, playoff soccer is as close as you're going to get to World Cup soccer, right?
Exactly, yeah. World Cup's coming up soon. Mexico and U.S. not looking good, but what do you expect? Playing CONCACAF. But, yeah, I'm excited for the final week of USL Championship.
Yeah, it is anytime you're dealing with the end of a season and playoffs, because we're talking with Blackhawk West on Saturdays in Canada. Same thing with the CFL. It's an exciting time. Some of these guys, you know, their only job is to really get to the locker, clean out the locker, right? But there's other guys that are playing for spots. You got three games we're going to look at. First of all, let me look at the standings and just kind of refresh my memory, because if I remember, the East was really, really close, right? And then the West wasn't. So, yeah, in the West, San Antonio has a 16-point lead over San Diego, and then Colorado's 5 back and Sacramento's 5 back of them. So the top four teams are separated by 16 points. But in the East, the difference between Louisville and Detroit, who is in the 6th spot, and there's only 7 playoff spots, is 15 points. So it really is. The East was the tighter of the two divisions. So let me ask you this, Hector. Which conference is better?
Overall, I think it's kind of top-heavy. I think the Eastern Conference is pretty top-heavy in terms of their top two teams, including Louisville, as you mentioned. But also the Western Conference has one team that's been dominant all season, consistent. That's San Antonio. That's why they pulled away at the end. But you never know. It's like anything, baseball, football, like we talked about a million times. If you're playing your best ball at the end, you got no injuries to deal with, and you're playing your best, you can surprise anybody.
So let me ask you that. The 76 points that San Antonio have, if they get into the finals with Louisville at 69 points, do those points matter at all?
Yeah, San Antonio would have the home seed right there. They would have to travel to Toyota Field in Texas and play there. But by that point, it comes down to, like I said, who's playing the best. You'd rather be playing at home in front of the home fans in the final. But if you're playing hot, you can beat anybody, like I said.
No, it totally makes sense. All right, let's do this. Let's look at a game, talk about it, get a pick from you. Then we'll go to break. We'll come back. We'll do 2 more. I always like to tease to that second segment because the bottom line is you give out a lot of good information. So let's start with game 1.
Game 1, we got Detroit City playing at Keyworth Stadium at home. This will be they're already in the playoffs. They're looking at to be as the 5 seed at least. They were trying to make it into as a 4 seed, but Birmingham beat them to it. And they're not going to get a home playoff game, unfortunately. That crowd goes crazy, dude. They played at Nisa last season, 3rd division. They were champions for 3 years in a row. Now this is a rookie season in the USL Championship, and they made a good showing of it. Like I said, they're a tough team to handle. Made it to the playoffs, and they're going to be playing against Miami FC. They are locked in as the number 7 seed. Both teams are good. They're only separated by 2 points, but I think considering that Detroit City going to be playing at home. They know this is their last home game. They're not going to get one in the playoffs, as I said, and they want to have a good showing for the fans as a kind of like a thank you for their support this whole season in the USL Championship. I don't even think it's going to be close, dude. I think they're going to destroy Miami 3-0, and then they're going to hit the playoffs with the right foot and hopefully make a good run.
All right, so right now they're both next to each other, and they're both in the playoffs. So the playoffs are set in the East. Miami is the last seed, but Miami's got 52, and Detroit has 54. So if Miami wins this, would they not bounce ahead of Detroit?
Yeah, they'll overtake them for sure. They'll be 1 point ahead of them. And actually, Detroit City, depending on what Pittsburgh does in their final game against Oakland, we'll talk about that in a second, they could drop down all the way to 7. So that means they would have to play the number 2 seed. Memphis 901 because Louisville as the 1 seed would get a bye week. But right now, obviously, they wanna finish strong, dude. I don't think that's that much about whether they're gonna finish 5, 6, or 7. Obviously, it looks better on your resume to finish, as a topper, as a better seed. But it's about finishing strong for the fans and showing their support. And they got a great team. They can match up with anybody. They've had some good surprises this season and good upsets. And I think they're gonna pull it off. I think and it's not even gonna be close. I think they'll win 3-0.
Yeah, because whether you play Memphis or Tampa Bay, which are the 2 and 3 seeds, you're playing a good team. And you're going to play in their yard.
Yeah, that point's about just like, crossing your fingers and hoping like you get a good enough ref that they calls a good game and you can put the goals in when you can.
There you go. All right, so when we get back from break with Soccer Time with Hector, we're going to cover the rest of the USL. Then this is the last week. This is it. Then we'll be talking playoffs. You're listening to Soccer Time with Hector on Wake and Bake. It's football season, ladies and gentlemen, and PropSwap is the best way to lock in the action right now. This time last year, Cincinnati was 300-1 odds. Thousands of prop swappers cashed in on Cincy just by buying their tickets on PropSwap early and then flipping for a profit when Burrow and company got hot. Now is your chance to do it again. With thousands of buyers across the country, you'll always get the most amount of money for your bet on PropSwap. So hurry to PropSwap while it's early and grab a ticket or two. The odds are always the highest right now. It really does pay to get in early. Go to PropSwap.com or download the free PropSwap app today. PropSwap is where America buys and sells sports bets. If you listen to Muhammad from 151 Sports Investing, he told you how much better the odds are on PropSwap than what is being offered at your local sports book. And look at me. I had UConn. I went for two. So instead of getting just one ticket with UConn in the future for the Final Four, I got two, sold one on PropSwap, and when they lost, I ended up having a positive ROI on a national championship future ticket where the team lost. Only on PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Welcome back to Soccer Time with Hector here on Wake and Bake. Now, one of the things that we always like to do when we're talking to Hector is remind ourselves about that 420 world clock. So we never know where it's going to be, but right now it's Alaska. So I'm thinking, remember when we had the pandemic, Hector, and we were talking soccer, we were covering countries that a lot of people had never heard of, Yeah. I'm not sure what the Aleutian Islands soccer program is, but I remember we were up in the North Circle talking an islands soccer. I mean, soccer is big all over the world.
Yeah, and if people haven't gotten a chance to watch a World Cup game, I recommend it. It's going to start pretty soon in November, and the World Cup groupings are set. I mean, if you're not into rivalries in the World Cup level, you're not going to into soccer at all. So it's going to be fun, man. They decked out all the stadiums over there, and they're going to be playing over there, and pretty much it's going to look like futuristic, dude. So I'm all excited for it.
Oh, it is going to be wild, and really, it is without a doubt. If you can find a local pub that is the home of USA Soccer or the home of Canadian soccer or whatever soccer you're from, whatever country you root for, there is no other environment that's like that, Hector.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully Mexico doesn't make an ass of themselves again, but crossing my fingers.
Well, I've told you that story numerous times about driving into Mexico that time, and I thought, something had happened. There was a war or something because there was no one on the street.
Germany, yeah,
they were playing Germany, yeah. So I'm excited about it. All right, so now we gave out a play for Saturday, and what we're dealing with the last week of the USL Championship League. Then we'll go into playoffs, so there are still some jockeying for positions. Most of it's set, but you got a couple more games you want to talk about.
Yeah, next one is, I think we mentioned them a second ago, Pittsburgh Riverhounds are the number 6 seed in the East. They're going to be taking on Oakland Roots, are the number 7 seed in the West. Pittsburgh, just like Detroit, they can go up or down 1 or 2 seeds, but they're definitely going to make the playoffs. And Oakland's still fighting. I mean, they're technically in as the last seed, as the number 7 in the West, but they can definitely get kicked out of there because there's a couple other teams that are trying to make it in as the last seed. But I think Oakland's going to have enough. And actually that worries me because my teams, as you know, San Diego Loyal, which I want to talk about in a second, but Oakland matches up well against anybody, East Coast, West Coast teams, and they've given San Diego Loyal all they can handle this season. And I think they're going to put it off at Pittsburgh. I think they're going to go in and get the draw that they need to lock up the 7th seed. And I'm looking at this game as a draw, 1-1, and both teams into the playoffs.
So in the West, this is a unique situation. Although El Paso has more points than Las Vegas, El Paso's already been eliminated where Las Vegas is still alive, and that obviously has to do something with the tiebreaker.
Right. They have the tiebreakers there. They have 3 different tiebreakers. They all benefit El Paso right now, and they're because that's the number 8 seed. But a win by Vegas actually would put them right at tying with Oakland if Oakland were to lose. Actually, not they would overtake Oakland. So Las Vegas, El Paso, Oakland, RGV, they're all fighting for their playoff lives right now. But I think out of all those 4, I think Oakland's the toughest team.
And in their last 5 games, Oakland hasn't lost. They've got 4 wins and a draw. Yep. All right, and the last game.
And the last game,
the home team, right? The home team.
Yeah, of course, dude. Landon Donovan's team, U.S. Soccer legend, even though he used to score all the time against L3, which I hated. But anyway, I still root for him anyway. San Diego Loyal playing on the road against Sacramento Republic. They did suffer a tough loss, an injury, which we don't know the update on Jack Blake, one of their best players, a midfielder who suffered an injury in their last game against New Mexico United in a 3-3 draw. And I think they're going to go in there. I think since they're already locked into the 2 seed, they played a lot of younger guys. They actually had a 16-year-old goalkeeper start for them last game against New Mexico to give them experience, one of the youngest, if not the youngest player in the league. And they're just going to be focusing on avoiding injuries. They can't afford another injury like they had with Metcalf. And I think they're going to play it soft, play it safe. Sacramento is right now the 4 seed in the standings in the West. And they're always a tough match. Like we talked about them before, they made it all the way to the U.S. Open Cup final against Orlando City. And they were the Cinderella team. Unfortunately, they couldn't beat the team from the Major League Soccer. But I think it's going to be a play it safe kind of game. I never want to bet on them to lose. If there's a game they're going to lose, it's going to be this one because, like I said, they're going to give a lot of younger guys the starting position to see if they're going to be helpful for the playoffs. But I think, unfortunately, for Landon, it's not a priority for them to win or lose. It's just a priority to be healthy as possible. I think Sacramento's going to take this one 1-0.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You got your spot locked in the playoffs. That last game, if someone get hurt, you'll be thinking about that for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah, you'll kick yourself, right? I don't know what the status is. I have to look it up on Jack Blake. But if they lose another guy, the starter, that definitely, because they're going to be playing, like I said, as a number 2 seed. Landon San Diego Loyal is going to be playing the number 7 seed. And if it's Oakland, I don't think they've lost to San Diego Loyal this season. So it's going to be those things. You got to be 100% to play those guys.
No doubt. Buddy, again, Soccer Time with Hector's always great. We'll talk to you when it's the playoffs.
Take it easy, guys. Playoffs.
It really was a Canadian Thanksgiving in our home this year. It was really the very first time Blackhawk West from 151 Sports Investing here on Saturdays in Canada on Wake and Bake. But because it was a holiday here in California as well, it was the old Columbus Day. It's Native Indigenous Day or whatever they call it. But everybody was home. We did not have turkey, though. We really enjoyed the day, but we did not have turkey.
I'm with you. You know, I'm more of a wings guy, whether it's Thanksgiving north or south of the border. So I had my wings. I treated it just like Thanksgiving, and the weather was great. And, you know, we got ourselves a good game. The game did not go the way we wanted it to go, but we had a great game to watch.
Well, you know what? Turkey wings, you don't need 12 turkey wings. I don't know if you've ever done that at your amusement park. Do you ever offer, people do chicken wings. You ever do turkey wings?
You know, the thought crossed my mind. It's not easy to get ingredients in today's world. But
no, of course, but
massive.
Yeah, they're so big. And, I shop at the Asian market. And the Asian market has all kinds of different stuff that you don't see in, your traditional Anglo-Saxon market. But they're huge. Yeah, 3 of those, you probably get at an amusement park, you get $14 for them. Your food cost is probably 78 cents.
I may do the turkey wings for this Thanksgiving coming up, this American Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but again, like you said, it's only relative if you can get it,
Of course.
We're still waiting on the Georgia footballs from last year. So, life is tough. But, yes, it was pretty cool to win that first half because we had it keyed up to other games. So it was a straight bet. It was live on a parlay. So that was good. But then I went for our annual Canadian Thanksgiving Day walk, my wife and I. Now, it's only annual this year, so if we don't do it again next year, it was just a one-shot deal. But, people, they walk, right, Wes, on Thanksgiving. Look, before dinner or after dinner, depending on where you live and the weather and stuff. And then I came back, and it was a totally different game when I came back.
It was. And Ottawa is committed to being the spoiler. I mean, all of their games to close out the season have relevance. They have the opportunity to really cause some damage for some teams that are fighting for their spot.
All right, so we're not going to see Ottawa Saturday, but remember, it doesn't matter whether you're in Ottawa. I'm not sure what the Ottawa cannabis rules are, but doesn't. Since we've been smoking for like 3,000 years, I'm pretty sure the rules don't matter. If you want to get it, you're going to get it in Ottawa. Or you're going to get it in San Diego. Wherever you're going to get it, it's going to be early on Saturday because we start at 8 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Eastern time. But that is specifically so we can get our bets in for the day. And we've got 2 games that we're going to talk about. So let's do this. Let's come back from break because we've got to tease them a little bit. And what we'll do is I'm going to play this segment again. I love this.
CFL. Let them know.
It's Saturdays in Canada with Blackhawk Wes and Quinn from 151 Sports Investing here on Wake and Bake, and we'll be right back.
You can get championship footballs at championshipfootballs.com. They offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. It's the coolest present that they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan or an Alabama Crimson Tide backer, maybe Gramps is a lifelong Dallas Cowboys supporter, or your brother-in-law is in LSU Tiger territory. Know a member of the Baylor Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Kansas City Chiefs fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, we're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggie or a Tulane Green Wave alum, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Welcome back to Saturdays in Canada with Blackhawk Wes here on Wake and Bake. Now, Wes, I really do. I have to admit, you like some of your kids better than the others, but I really like our CFL intro. I got a lot of intros I like, but that one is just my favorite one because it really is. It's a beautiful song, and CFL's got a place in our hearts that a lot of people don't. Remember, it was Charles from San Diego that came on for you when we were having the show for Canadian football, and I said, normally it's not a problem. Wake and Bake is basically 7 or 8 different shows, and depending on who's available, that's what we do each week. So it could be Paolo on soccer or Hector on soccer. Mo's pretty consistent. Sometimes we have John from GM, but the only person in the world that I talk to about CFL, I understand Al, nope, Tommy, nope, Johnny D, nope, none of them. I talk to none of them about the CFL except for you. And so then your freezer blows, and you got $23,000 worth of turkey wings you got to throw away, and really a turkey wing Thanksgiving at an amusement park, how much fun would that be? So we limped through last week, but what we're looking this week to do is we're looking to give out 2 winners, and I got the Easy Sports date in front of me, and I'm going to let you start.
So the first one is the Toronto. Toronto is going to. I apologize.
Edmonton.
Toronto's going to Edmonton. It's 5.5 points. Now, you got to look at playoff scenarios to close this season out. We have 3 weeks left. Toronto is locked into a playoff spot. They're looking to lock themselves into first. They do it with a Montreal loss and their own win. Now, where it gets interesting is they're going to come back after this Edmonton game and they're going to play Montreal twice. So they need this Edmonton win, and I couldn't think of a better team to go and close out your season with and lock in first. So, and Toronto at home is pretty tremendous. This is a road game, but laying 5.5 going against Edmonton, who struggles to stop the other team from scoring, and they struggle to score points themselves. You and I have been calling it all season long with Edmonton. They are an example of, if you find a team to bet against, that's almost more valuable than if you find a team to bet on. And just, a touch on what you had mentioned earlier, it is a smoke 'em out country. Canada, you smoke wherever you want. It is not state to state like the U.S. is. It is rec legal in the north.
Yeah, and again, I'm very much up on the laws here, but this is the only time of week that I talk Canadian cannabis. I will not. I will come to the table next week with a lot more. Actually, I could do it right now because it's 20 after the hour. I always fall back to that world clock because it's 20 after the hour. Now, again, it's not 20 after the hour on the show, even though it could be close because if this is the first segment, it could. But we're going to go to the world clock. And the world clock I like because it tells me where it is anywhere I want to know. And it's the 420worldclock.com. And it really is geography. So Cancun, not a bad place. Now, I know it for a fact. They just changed the laws in Mexico for marijuana, but we talk to Hector all the time about it. Hector lives in Tijuana. Is that, I don't care if it's legal. I'm not taking a chance. You know what? If the guys that are the ones enforcing the laws aren't necessarily lawful themselves, it's a tough situation to be in. So if you're in Cancun, you may not want to be packing a bowl. Houston, too. Houston, Mexico City, Winnipeg. See, you don't think about that. Winnipeg and Cancun are in the same time zone.
Isn't that wild? I mean, they're so far apart, totally different climate, but they're north-south, they're the same.
Yeah. All right, so what do we got? We got, if you're betting against Edmonton this year, you're 5-10. So you've won 10 of the 15, which is not bad, right? That's 2/3, 66%. Again, we're not crowing about 66%, but we're not complaining about it because we're just taking our money back and moving on. Because really, the way we bet, at 66%, we're probably up a little bit, but we're not showing suitcases of money to anybody. But if you take that same bet and you go, I'm going to bet against Edmonton whenever they're home, they have won 2 games since we've been tracking Easy Sports data in 2 full seasons. So it's like 11-2. You're 11-2. And that's the difference between home and away. It really makes all the difference. So let's talk about the later game, Winnipeg.
So the later game, I struggle with this game. It's a 2.5-point spread. They took it off the board, and I believe that it was taken off the board for a little bit earlier in the week. Having to do with Nathan Rourke and some questions around. It's questionable whether or not he'll even be back for the playoffs. The situation we're in with Winnipeg is they're Winnipegging. They do it every year. They've locked first place. They've locked their bye. They've locked everything up, and then they got 3 weeks to go. Coach O'Shea is a master of keeping his team ready and motivated. There's some odd injuries. Nick Taylor on defense, Jeff Coat on defense. Those are some big names. There's a chance that they're not going to play. And then we got Wolodarski, a wide receiver who's really just shown out this year out of left field to replace some turnover on the wide receiving core. So, but again, it's 2.5 points. I look at BC, and they need this game. Winnipeg, if this becomes a competitive game at all, I see Coach O'Shea pulling important players to avoid injury. Winnipeg needs to do nothing for the rest of this season other than get healthy and stay motivated. So I'm looking at BC at home, and I'm taking the 2.5 points. The key injuries, Rourke and Whitehead. I believe Whitehead's going to start this game. And, BC's defense is not bad. And I don't think they're going to go against the full version of Winnipeg. They're now thinking about what it's going to look like when they play BC in the playoffs. So BC is competing for that home game in the conference semis with Calgary. And so these games all matter to them. as long as Calgary's winning games, BC has to win games in order to clinch that home game in that semi. So I like taking the 2.5, and I'm taking BC. Betting against Winnipeg is not good for your health. In this spot, it feels right, especially at home.
Well, we talk about that, and it doesn't matter. We talk about it right now with Hector, with the soccer league that he covers is going down to the playoffs. We talked about it with John from GMF Sports when the baseball was running down. One team, there's 3 spots you're in. You're locked, right? You're totally out of it, or you're fighting for your life, and every game is a playoff game. The only problem is we kind of learned the lesson last week. We got, basically slapped because we bet against Winnipeg, and they embarrassed us.
That's true, and more times than not, that's what they're going to do. BC needs this game more, and I think that the injuries and the opt-outs for this game on the Winnipeg side is going to have more of an impact.
Well, and you know how it is. I mean, it doesn't take a genius. It doesn't matter whether you're an executive chef, you're a writer. You get a week off from any job, you're better. The next week. You're better. It's that simple. So, all right, my man, we will again talk to you next time. Hopefully we will catch you maybe on a Sports Betting Weekly, but we're not sure when we're going to start up on Thursdays. That Thursday live stuff, though, is a lot of fun once the hockey starts and basketball starts. So we'll see. Otherwise, it's Saturdays in Canada with Blackhawks West. Thanks, buddy.
Always be cashing.
I want some more.
I know a guy.
I want some more.
I know a guy.
I want some more.
I know a guy.
Welcome to more Winners with Mo here on Wake and Bake. Now, Mo, as always, we really look at a couple things on Wake and Bake. Sure, there's the cannabis aspect of things, but if you can win enough money to get your cannabis, and then it's technically like free cannabis, I'm thinking we should come up with some kind of promotion, that tags in free cannabis if you listen to Wake and Bake. I mean, we have to. What is those disclaimer, right?
Right.
You taught me how to do Audacity, so I could speed it up. So I could say a lot of things and then speed it up real fast, and they won't even technically be able to hear it, man. Hey, so week 6, right? We're going into week 6. We have, what do we know so far? We know that we still have a team that's keeping the Miami Champagne on ice from the 72 team. We know that. We know that the AFC West is not the best division in football. We know that. We did not know the NFC East was going to be, but technically, if you count the win losses combined, that's what we have. And Aaron Rodgers was right. Green Bay's not that good.
They're not that good, and surprisingly, the Jets seem pretty good. So it's been a crazy 6 weeks to start this NFL season so far.
There's no doubt about it. One of the games that jumped out at me, that's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have to talk to you about one game first, then we'll take a break, then we'll talk about 2 games. I always like to give you a chance to go 2-1, because 2-2, why even get up and do the show at 2-2? Yeah. Minnesota, Miami. So these are teams that have 2 winning records. Now, it looked like Miami was going to be the best team in the AFC when they took down Buffalo, but of course they've had some issues, and it's a league with 32 teams, Mo, and there's not 32 human beings that can play quarterback in the NFL on the planet. It's just not. So it's always going to be that situation that if your guy gets hurt, you're in tough. In college, not so much. In college, we've seen guys bounce off the bench and they're good. And now with the transfer portal, you can have 2 guys on your bench that are good. But the Miami-Minnesota game, I don't think anybody thought these 2 teams would be this good this early.
No, and the thing with Minnesota is they are good early, and then they tend to struggle in the second half. They got off to a super hot start last week, and then kind of came back to reality. To pull it out in the second half. But, for this game, Justin Jefferson's lighting it up, the receiver from Minnesota. Kirk Cousins continues to play good. We've seen a slow start from Dalvin Cook. He did pick it up last week a little bit with a couple of touchdowns. Miami, who it looks like they're going to have their possibly either Teddy Bridgewater or their third-string quarterback starting, which that doesn't bode well. Tyreek Hill is expected to play. At this point, we'll have to see what happens with him there. But the passing game for Miami has been, almost non-existent these last couple of weeks. So I think my favorite play for this game is probably going to be Minnesota early on, either the first quarter or in the first half. They get off to a fast start, and then things for some reason slow down when it gets to the second half. So I think I like Minnesota in the first half in this game.
Yeah, because they've got 3 straight wins. They haven't covered in one of them, and they were leading at one point and covering those games. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And you'll see that, especially in those big NFL spreads, and we're seeing them, every week there's 2-3 now. Remember, when we first started doing Sports Betting Weekly, you didn't have 17-point spreads in the NFL very often. Seems like every year now we're getting college spreads. Those spreads are tough to maintain because if you got a 16 or 17-point lead in the NFL, the game's pretty much over. But if you're given 7.5, 8.5, 9.5 points, the game's never over in the NFL.
Well, it's starting to feel more like the NBA, where every team tends to go on the run in the second half, and that's what's hurting people when they're trying to hit those spreads in the second half. We've got teams getting garbage time touchdowns too that are ruining a lot of those games. So when it's a big spread, if you're going to play it, play it in the first half.
Well, look at the Vegas Raiders Kansas City game.
Mm-hmm.
So many bets were impacted by 2 coaches that out of the blue decided to go for 2. The second guy made sense going for 2, but the first guy I don't think made sense. Actually, neither of them made sense. Now that I'm looking at it, now did I lose a bet because of one of them? Yeah, I did. I lost a bet. I had the Raiders 9.5 for the second half as a team total. They get the beautiful pass, and I'm going to win, right? Because there's no way you're going for 2. Going for 2 there serves no purpose. But I was wrong. What are you going to do? All right, so when we get back from break, we're going to get more winners from Mo here on More Winners with Mo on Wake and Bake.
Sports Betting Weekly.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind.
Welcome back to More Winners with Mo here on Wake and Bake. Now, Mo, we were talking about the big spreads in the NFL because I know we talked about it with college. It's the same thing. It's just really, really difficult to lay that many points.
Yeah, I mean, it especially when you're talking about, even with bad teams, you're still talking about, the greatest players in the world of the sport. You look at college teams, and yeah, there's some average guys and some not so good guys, but you've got the cream of the crop playing in the NFL. So given that many points to me, it's such a hard thing to do, even when you're talking about a good team and a bad team, because you'll see guys getting rested at the end where all of a sudden we get some quick garbage touchdowns scored on trick plays, and you're screwed.
Yeah, and it really is. Again, when you're dealing with the NFL, the next man up is a little different than college. College, the next man up, it was still the kid, could be a sophomore. He's taking 18 units. He's really overloaded. He hasn't had really a chance to handle the playbook, and he runs the wrong way on a punt return. Anything's possible,
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple really big games later Sunday night. We've got Buffalo at Kansas City, and we get Dallas and Philly. Now, Buffalo, Kansas City, of course, they're both 4-1, but more importantly, it's the rematch that changed the rules, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, too, about this game is how many times can you think of in the past 4 or 5 years that Patrick Mahomes was a home underdog? Not many.
No, actually, I could go and do that with our Easy Sports data and tell you. So you keep talking, I'll tell you exactly.
Yeah, coming up Sunday night, it's a hard thing to not ever take Patrick Mahomes and take the points. But this might be a game, I think, where I would do that because I'm still not a believer in Kansas City's defense. The loss of the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu to the Saints, I think hurts that secondary still a ton. I'm not a fan of him when it comes to getting after the quarterback. I like how quick that Josh Allen gets the ball out. I like, the fact that he's not afraid to use his legs. He doesn't have to, but he's not afraid to. I just think this offense is fantastic. And I'll tell you what, Buffalo gets after the quarterback, and they get after it quick. We saw the Raiders able to get to Patrick Mahomes a little bit last Monday night. I think that, this is a time where I'm going to take Buffalo and I'm going to lay the points. It's not often when Mahomes gets points and I don't take Kansas City, but I think this is a time that I don't. I'm taking Buffalo and I'm giving the points. I like this Buffalo team way too much.
All right, so I just went back. and I'm dealing with now the 2021, nothing. I got to go back all the way to the Chargers. The last game of 2021, January 3rd, Kansas City hosted the Chargers, and the Chargers beat them 38-21. And if I remember correctly, that was the game where nobody played, because it was the last game of the season. So that's it. Otherwise, it's all negative numbers as far back as you can go. You can go back probably, to some earlier years. And there's another one here, Minnesota. Ironically, we just talked about the Vikings back in 2019. So we're talking 3 years. You got to go back 3 years to see a game that wasn't the last game of the season, where the Chiefs were getting points at home. And then finally, the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles are hosting a team that, golly gee, Dallas has got a pretty good defense.
Dallas does, and in Philadelphia hasn't played fantastic the last couple of weeks. They started out real slow against Jacksonville. They didn't play their best last week either. Came down to a missed field goal, from Arizona. But they're finding ways to win, and good teams find ways to win. But when you're betting on it, you don't care if they find a way to win. You want your team to find a way to cover. So I look at, you wonder when the magic for Cooper Rush is going to run out. Dak's been back practicing. He's not going to play this week, but he's been back practicing. And does Cooper Rush feel a little bit of pressure? I mean, he knows the job's not his and it's Dak's, but man, it's sure kind of been on a roll with Cooper Rush. And if you're a coach, I'm superstitious as all get out. So when I'm on a roll, I hate to change things up. But you're right. Dallas's defense is good. But I think that Philadelphia's a little bit better. It's hard a lot of times when you've got a running quarterback to not make a mistake at some point, whether it's either a big run ripped off or you get a big throw downfield. And Philadelphia's got the receivers to do it. They've gotten a little bit more into the running game lately. The defense is still a question for me with Philadelphia. I don't think they're fantastic. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'm going to take Philadelphia. I'm going to lay the points, but I think the under will probably be my favorite play in this game.
Yeah, and the logic is sound. The problem is on unders, betting a team that's giving a touchdown, because that's a lot of points. And if it's an 18-12 final, and you're giving 6.5, it's exactly what you said would happen, but you don't cash one of your tickets. So, underplays are hard. There's no doubt about it. Underplays are hard. We've had a lot of success, though, this year so far with our Monday nights and our Thursday night primetime games playing the under, because these just are ugly, ugly games with ugly, ugly teams. This isn't that case, but this could be one of those good unders. There's a difference between ugly unders, right, Mo, and good unders.
There is, and sadly, on Thursday afternoon, Al Michaels, who does the Thursday night games on Amazon Prime, was on one of the Chicago radio stations, and he said between last week's game and this week's game, it's enough to make someone want to retire, because those games are so long for those guys when nothing's going on and it's a terrible game. So, I hope sooner or later that we go back to having good games on Thursday nights and not more of these dogs.
You can only chit-chat so much. You've been on the radio. You can only chit-chat so much, or say, here comes the punter from Eastern Illinois.
Right.
All right, Mo. Always appreciate your time. More importantly, we appreciate your winners. More winners with Mo here on Wake and Bake. We'll talk to you next time.
Sports Betting Weekly. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind.
Welcome to another edition of Sports Betting Weekly here on Wake and Bake. And this week we are very, very excited to have our buddy Tommy back, because Tommy, we have waked and baked and bet mucho times together in Mexico.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
I miss Mexico. I really do.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've got a passport. We should head down.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna wait. It's not as much now the COVID. I'm gonna wait till they stop burning down the taxi cabs. When they stop burning taxi cabs, I think I might go back. So
yeah.
But we have booked our annual AFC NFC Betaway weekend. You have been there before on one or two of them, and we're looking forward to it again. So don't hesitate to look into your calendar. I think it's the very last Sunday in January since they've added the weeks, but you got to check. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because that's when I've got my flight booked. So we'll see what happens. You know what? We get a good crew there. We always have a good time. As you know, I don't think you've really never had a bad time in Vegas, right, Tommy?
No. I have not. No.
Don't get me wrong. You know, you don't always come home with more money than you leave with, but you never have a bad time. So
No.
All right, so let's talk about a couple things. One is when I give out parlays on some of the shows I visit, and I mention to them I'm only using the first half, or I give them a second half parlay that I'm telling them, no, I'm telling you you're going to bet this before the game even starts. It doesn't matter what happens. In the second half, you're doing this. Well, we've had how many times where you've done the double up, where you do the, well, I don't know what you call it. Explain the double up.
I call it, well, it's not even a double up. I call it the turn in 100 into 1,000. What I do is I take 100 and I play the first half. I play a first half parlay. And then I take what I want, which is usually between 250 plus the 100. So it's 350. And I play a 2-team parlay with everything. I just launch it all. And I turn, 100 into 1,000 in the course of 3 hours.
No, we've seen you do it live at March Madness. It was pretty cool. There's no doubt about it. It's pretty cool. And it really is. It's a different way to bet, but why do you like betting that way?
Why do I like betting halves, or why do I like...
Yeah, halves.
They're just a little bit easier for me to figure out. That's all. For years I bet games, but it's also a little bit more instant gratification.
There's two aspects for us, really. One is, yes, without a doubt, you're dealing with the fact that the bet you get that money in an hour and a half. The half bet. But it eliminates a tale of two halves. And how many games every single Saturday in college football and every single Sunday in the NFL do we see where what happened in the first half had nothing to do with what happened in the second half?
No, and class usually tells in the second half. Like the better team, usually comes out on top, especially in college. I mean, in the NFL, as my dad used to say, everybody's on scholarship. So anything can happen in the NFL. But in college, class usually tells, and so you can end up doing okay. Like your team, you might lose your first half parlay, but the team's starting to play better, and they're going to come out and rout them in the second half. So you can bet on that. What's been getting me this year is, as you know, I'm one of the biggest Buckeye honks walking planet Earth. Is I'm killing them in the first half. I'm winning all my first half bets with them, the first half in the over. And then they put on the brakes. They pump the brakes in the second half. And I'm still playing the Bucks in the over in the second half. And I'm getting clobbered.
Yeah, no, it really, that specific, and we talked with Billy Elvis. And you remember Billy Elvis from 93.7 The Fan, Lima, Ohio, sports leader. But yeah, we talked to him this weekend, and sure enough, I mentioned that they are two different teams. It looks like two different teams. Now, last week wasn't so bad, but I don't think they got the second half over because again, they're not scoring a lot of points after the break. They're putting up 29.
Day has a little bit more class than that guy that won't be named that used to coach the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
He sees no reason, except I don't know. Did you see they dropped 77? I think it was against who was it? The second game of the year. They dropped 77 points. It might have been Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, but what it was, none of the starters were in the game.
Well, and again, that's the other aspect of it is when you are building a program and you're up by 30 at halftime and you can play, you're not only playing guys that aren't going to get live game reps, but you're also resting guys that prevent them from, getting hurt or wearing out by the end of the year. So, and as I've mentioned a few times, those coaches really don't care who we have, do they?
No, they don't. No, there's only certain coaches that care about. Like Bobby Bowden, you thought that he cared, about if he was given 50, he wanted to cover the marker. It just seemed like if the Florida State, when he was the coach there, was given 50, he'd want to win by 52, and
keep those boosters happy.
Yeah, and Spurrier was like that as well.
Yeah.
Spurs.
No, we did. We had a nice rundown with Miami, Florida, and Florida State, where it was a 3-team parlay for about, 3 or 4 years in a row. It seemed like every single week they were covering.
Throw in Boise State from 10 years ago as well.
Yeah. All right, so it's pretty cool because, again, it's 4:20 here when we're talking in San Diego. But let's get a play for Saturday.
Okay. Saturday, I like the over in the Texas game, over 25.5. They're playing Iowa State, and Iowa State has reverted back to being Iowa State. They're terrible. They were ranked at the beginning of the season, but then again, so was Notre Dame and Oklahoma. But I see the Texas is an improving team. You see what they did to Oklahoma last week. And Oklahoma, I'd have to say that they're probably better at every position than Iowa State. So I'm going to
you say Texas. You said Oklahoma.
No, I'm saying Oklahoma. I'm saying because
okay,
killed Oklahoma last.
Right.
And I mean they shut them out for the first time in like 10 years or something like that. And and Oklahoma I'd say is better at almost every single position than Iowa State. And so what's Texas going to do to Iowa State? I mean, it's over 25.5. I think they're going to score 35-40 in the first.
No, I told you we're on that play with our Ohio group because the Buckeyes are off, so we put that game in. Yeah, they should get that 28 by themselves, shouldn't they?
Oh yeah, I think so. I'm looking like 35-37 nothing at the half.
Yeah, they're not giving up a lot of points, so they're playing real well. And, of course, they're sitting around because they won the Cooper Manning Bowl, right, to get his kids. So they've got that going for them.
Yeah, it's not Cooper, it's Cooper.
Yeah, there you go. When we get back,
corrected on that too many times.
I know. When we get back from break, we're going to talk more about first half betting here on Sports Betting Weekly with Tommy Pens on Wake and Bake.
You can get championship footballs at championshipfootballs.com. They offer a 100% money back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. It's the coolest present that they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan or an Alabama Crimson Tide backer, maybe Gramps, a lifelong Dallas Cowboys supporter, or your brother-in-law is in LSU Tiger territory. Know a member of the Baylor Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Kansas City Chiefs fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, we're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggie or a Tulane Green Wave alum, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly here on Wake and Bake. We've got Tommy Pens. Hey, Tommy, one thing that I want to say to you is because it was really cool of you to take the time this week. I know you're busy to talk some first half betting, but to do it at 4:20, the day we're prepping for the show for tomorrow morning, is pretty cool also because it allows us to bring back some fond memories. And you and I, we have memories that go way back.
We do. And, I'm also a tad bit salty after the Yankee loss. So I'm putting on a brave face.
Yeah, and it was a tough one. It was a tough one. I mean, anytime you lose one at home, you got to worry, right?
Yep. Yeah,
we get
play 3 games in a row, 2 in Cleveland, and hopefully we only have to play 2 in Cleveland.
Yeah. All right, so let's do this. Let's talk about some Sunday action. Now, Sunday with the pros, I think you're even more aggressive with the shorter periods. I mean, you'll bet quarters in the NFL, right?
Yeah, I will. And quarters aren't usually available on my where I make my bets. They're not usually available on college games. So I do play the quarters in the NFL. But I don't have quarters for you. I have a couple of first half plays.
All right, let's talk about it. What's the first game?
All right. The first game is Tampa Bay, -6. They're starting to play well. Everybody's getting healthy on that team. And, Tom Brady's playing with a chip on his shoulder because his wife left him, and I just think that 6 is an easy first half number, and they should be up by a lot more than that.
Yeah, if you use the same logic you use, which is, well, Oklahoma's better than Iowa State, and they whacked Iowa State, you're talking about Texas, you can use the same thing with Pittsburgh because the Jets beat Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay's better than the Jets, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. It's the Steelers are they're breaking in a rookie quarterback, and there's usually a lot of growing pains. And while this kid could be good, he hasn't been good. He's throwing more picks than completions almost. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I really like Tampa Bay minus the 6 in the first half.
No doubt about it. Yeah, and really, you got to give a shout out to those New York fans because they've struggled for a few years now. But right now, their 2 teams are 7-3, so they better enjoy it. I just got a feeling it's not going to last.
I think the Giants can win that division. I do. I really do. I think they can win that division just because that division is trash. I mean,
well, 9-7 gets you the division normally, and they're 4-1, so they really are halfway there. Of course, this year Philly's undefeated, but Philly and Dallas and the Giants, they got to play each other. They play 6 games between them.
Yep.
All right, last game
for them for anything. I like the Colts, their offense to bounce back, and they're playing the Jaguars, who. I know it's not college, but it's definitely a revenge game because the Jags stopped them from going to the playoffs last year when they were 1-15 in the last game of the season. All the Colts had to do was win one there, and they got Carson Wentz, as I would say. Carson Wentz threw 5 picks and fumbled twice, so you can never win when you turn the ball over 7 times. But, yeah, the over-under, that's what I'm playing on that game, is 20.5. And I think between the two of them, we can get 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah, wow, you're on a couple of my plays because I like that one as well. I really do think that they're going to score early and often there. And it's so great, though, because, people make fun of you. But after halftime, if I cash my bet and I got no other action on the game, I totally switch to another game. It don't matter to me.
Yeah.
When they give out rings at the Super Bowl ceremonies, they don't give them out to the guys that had money bet on the team. So we're not going to worry about it. All right, Tommy. Again, we always appreciate your time very much. And, of course, you're winners because you give them out all the time.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
All right. We'll talk soon.
See you.
Yeah, so thanks again for checking out Wake and Bake here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on Belly Up Sports, and on the Sports Betting Channel. It's early on Saturday, so we appreciate you coming up, torching up that bong, getting some winners, cashing some tickets, and always be cashing.
Sports Betting Weekly. All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind.